Hi folks, hope you're doing well. Just a quick video on football related stuff. On Thursday, United beat Roma 6-2. Now, in the first half, what happened was pretty usual, certainly at half time. All the fans were anti-Ollie massively, blaming Ollie. So, first half ended, United were losing 2-1. At the end of the second half, United won 6-2. So they basically won the second half 5-0. Suddenly, Ollie is a genius, right? To a lot of fans. Ollie is the man. Yeah, people are surprised at what Ollie did and how he reacted and how he got the team playing so well. To me, the length of stupidity in this is just amazing. Really. How on earth can the same manager be such a complete klutz in the first half? Klutz is what I said. Not the other word. Well, how can he be so poor in the first half of his decision making and setting the team up? But in the second half, he says, okay, we just do this, we just do that, we just do this, we just do that. No, I'm sorry, it happens all the time. Is it the manager that's doing it? Or is it, like in that game, was it Pogba, Cavani and Bruno Fernandes? Now, I think most people looking on would say Pogba, Cavani and Bruno all stepped up massively in that second half. Played certainly one of the best games they've played for United this season. The three of them did. In that second half, they were very good. So they were the difference. It wasn't Ollie. It was them. So there are a lot of fans who were then saying, but Ollie signed those players. Well, first of all, he didn't sign Pogba. Pogba was already there. If he signed those players, did he sign James? James has been a failure. Did he sign Maguire for 80 million? Did he decide that Maguire's worth 80 million? No idea. Did he sign Wan-Bissaka, someone who can tackle, but that's it? Yeah, hasn't made the right side any stronger, really. We'll put it this way, defensively, the right side was always fairly strong. It's just offensively, it's quite weak. So we brought in a wing-back to try and make it better, but a wing-back who can't cross. Right, okay. So was that Ollie as well? That's the thing. Were these signings Ollie? Oh, no. Those signings weren't Ollie. Bruno was. And Cavani was. But the rest weren't. Really? Yeah. None of them were. None of those signings had anything really to do with Ollie at all. They were all to do with Ed Woodward. Yeah, Ed Woodward saw that Cavani's going to sell shirts. He knew that the actual deal for Bruno Fernandes was very good for a player of that ability. Quite cheap, really. And Cavani was basically signed on a free, wasn't he? In the contract. So, yeah. So that was Ed Woodward. Both of them were. Well, Oles described himself as someone who's not a coach. He didn't describe himself as a coach. He said he's not a coach. Which basically means he can't coach. So he can't coach. Then he's got, as I said before, YTS coaches in position. That's why we see the team, certainly in the first half of most games, being so abjectly poor. So poor, it's utterly ridiculous. I mean, this is Man United. Ugh, terrible. They're not set out with a real game plan. It's just like we go out there and... Yeah, so before the game, Ollie was saying, with Fred, Ollie feels safe. Yeah, with the game. But Fred are one of the biggest problems we've got. One of the biggest problems. Recently, the team has been rescued by the ability of players like Pogba, Cavani, and Bruno, and Greenwood, and even Rashford on occasion. Whilst Fred and Maguire ended up making terrible mistakes all the time, just giving the ball away, being very, very weak in position. Play Pogba and Bruno as attacking midfielders. Have one top defensive midfielder behind them. You've got to make sure you've got two very, very strong central defenders behind that, which we haven't. But if you had that, the problem is, again, we've got a manager who's a kiss ass, basically. Not just with the board, but also with the players. At least with Jose, he came out and said, our defence isn't good enough. He said that. He said, I wanted to bring in a few defenders. Why? Because the defence isn't good enough. Simple. He knew that. Ollie brought in defenders, and they're still not good enough. Because look at who he brought in. He brought in Maguire and then made him captain. Maguire has no leadership ability whatsoever. None at all. He can't lead by example because his example is quite poor, really. So he can't lead by that. He doesn't lead by any other way because if the way you're playing is poor, no one's going to take much notice of you. He's poor too often. Well, Pogba did a interview after the match. Basically said that at half time, Ollie gave his talk and then the players have talked together and said, let's just do the simple things. Let's just keep it simple out there. That was the players saying that. So that was basically Bruno, Pogba and Cavani, pretty much. The more experienced, world-class players just saying, look, let's just keep it simple. Let's not overcomplicate things. Let's just get the ball to the front man and bang, 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 bang. And that's what happened. In the first half, what the heck were they doing? Again, they were too slow in attack. They were, they seemed to lose their way too quickly. That was Ollie's plan. But then in the second half, they're like, no, we're not going to do that, no. So, yeah. You can credit Ollie with sometimes he makes changes at half time. But the problem is, even with that credit, you've got to look and say, well, why didn't he start that way? They must have scouted the other team. Did the other team set up any differently than what was to be expected? No, Roma, certainly not. This is the way they play. This is Italian football. They started and they played exactly the way they were expected to play. So did no one at United actually bother to look at this team and see how they like to play? No one could figure out that they would play this way. But as I say, that's the problem. Ollie is not a football manager. He's a player manager. He's basically said that he's a player manager. Basically a HR person. Players have got problems, they go and see the HR person, HR manager, and the HR manager makes the player feel better. That's what Ollie does. They give him a little speech. That's Ollie's job, isn't it, really? Problem is, he's the football manager. He's the manager of Manchester United football team. His job is to manage all things we've got on that team. The coaching, training, tactics, formation, all that's supposed to be down to him. Jeez, he hasn't got a clue, has he? Completely clueless. Well, it's like Pogba was talking about the fact that, United need the best. Not Pogba, Scholes. Scholes, when he was actually during the half-time tournament, Scholes was saying, United need the best. They need the best players. They need the best. Because he was talking about, what's he talking about? Director of football. Because United have got a football director. They've employed someone as a football director. And Scholes was saying, yeah, but is that a director of football? Because United need a director of football, but they need the best director of football. They don't just need someone to come in and do the job. They need the best person. They need the best players. They need the best manager. And he said, okay, we haven't got the best manager, but give him time. He might become that. So, excuse me, give him time. He might become that. He's had time. Have things honestly got better? Do they look better on the pitch? Sod the league, forget that. Liverpool have been really, really poor this season, right? Compared to the previous season. Now, had Liverpool been this poor last season, United probably would have finished where they're going to this season, right? Well, because Tottenham have been poor. Tottenham sacked their manager who brought them all success because he was struggling a bit, and he's gone to PSG. Crazy. So Arsenal have been poor. Chelsea have been poor. So, yeah. So you have Man City, Liverpool last season, first and second. Liverpool, Man City. Then Leicester still up there again. But United really, are they any better this season to what they were last season? No. Not in any way, shape or form. This is now Ollie's full second season. He's been here 2.5 years now. Pretty much. By the time this season ends. Has the football improved? No. So therefore, how much more time are you willing to give someone? If this was a business, after 2 years of bringing someone in, or 2.5 years of bringing someone in, and seeing that things really haven't improved very much at all, even though you've spent a ton of money, which they have indeed. I mean, Maguire 80 million, Wan-Bissaka about 50 million, Bruno about 60 million. So they've not exactly been, scraping the bottom of the barrel with their spending, have they? They've spent a fortune. Tellez as well is another one that they brought in, who's been quite useful this season, resting Shaw. You've got Tellez and James and the young players as well that have been brought in, and I can't remember who else they brought in. But since Ollie's been there, there's been a number of players brought in where a lot of money's been spent. Around about £200 million have been spent on players. So he's got far better players than Jose had. Far better players. Has the football improved, really? No. No, the tactics, the decision-making is terrible. Still just as bad. You've got players like Van der Beek. He's another player that was signed. Van der Beek, easy to forget because he never gets picked. Even that game, 6-2 up, did he bring Van der Beek on with half an hour to go? No. No. No, Matic and Mata are ahead of Van der Beek. Obviously, for some reason, Ollie has a problem with Van der Beek. Doesn't like him. So you've got a player who's certainly within Europe a top player. Maybe not one of the best in the world, but one of the best in Europe in that position. Sitting on the bench being paid to do virtually nothing. He's far better than Mata, far better than Matic, far better than Fred and McTominay. But there's 4 players put ahead of him. That's Ollie. You've got a player like that there. Yeah. Give him a chance. Give him a decent lot of games to prove what he can do. You've given that to McTom. You've given it to Fred. You've given it to Wan-Bissaka. You've given it to Shaw, because Shaw was struggling a bit. So to a lot of players, Ollie's given that. He's not given it to Van der Beek, which is, the club bought this player. He's supposed to be there as an option, and you're just not using him. So no, I personally would say no, things aren't better. And I think Scholes is right. United should be getting the best. They still claim to be one of the top teams in the world, so therefore they should have the top manager, they should have the top players, they should have the top coaches, the top director of football. They should be showing that they're top rather than simply saying it. But as I say, if that was actually properly run as a business, there's no way, shape or form Ollie would still be there. Although actually, to a certain degree, he would, because if the owners of a business were trying to basically just take money out of the business, but they put someone in charge who the workers trust, who the workers like and believe in. They put that person as manager of the workers. But someone who would be so grateful to be in that position that they would kiss the butt of the owners all the time. Yeah. That's what happens, isn't it? So there you go. So, yes, I did a video last night. I'll be editing that one and putting it up probably before the walk tonight. Yeah, it's a long one, so it needs to be figured out. Right, you take care. God bless. I'll speak to you soon. Bye-bye.